they might be calling it quits.
Say it ain't so.
Does anybody care? All right, coming up, this is what we're doing. You go for it.
All right, we've all been there, the little verbal jabs and snaps that we sometimes use against the ones we love.
But that kind of communication is never helpful, especially if you're dating someone who is your total opposite. Donna Fortney is back here to help us kind of through this and translate what we should do. Opposites attract, as they say, right?
That's right, they do. And they go through a period of the romantic love stage, and then they get to that comfortable stage, you know, wearing sweatpants, not going to the door to greet your partner or brush your teeth before you kiss. And then there's sort of a power struggle stage where you're literally bumping up against traits that are your opposites. And then you start, you know, the little conflicts and arguing and put them under the rug, or they just don't seem to disappear.
Things start to change. Well,
right.
We're going to talk about certain situations and pose them and see how you would decode them or kind of help people. First one up, that someone says, my partner talks too much. How do I get my partner to listen to me?
Well, you know, one of the best ways to get your partner to listen to you is to listen to them first. To ask them to share with you something that they'd like to share, and then say, you know, well, let me see if I've got this. Because often when we don't feel like we're heard, we run on, we repeat, we get louder, we get more animated, and our partner just sort of shuts off because they're an opposite. They'll start to avoid that. So if you really present yourself, looking at them, paying attention, putting your things away, and just asking them to share, and then tell them what you heard, and then ask them for more. You're not going to hear all the repeat stuff.
But when you do butt heads,
you butt heads.
And now granted, in my relationship, you ask my wife, it's perfect, so this never happens to us per se. But for other people, when you do butt heads like that, and you have to resolve it, I mean, you're living in those close confines, what is the one rule of thumb that you suggest people kind of adhere to so that things don't linger for 3 or 4 days, but you smooth them over pretty quickly? Yeah,
you know, Scott, that's one of the hardest things that people have, that we humans have, is to figure out how to reconnect, how to say, ooh, you know, I played a part in this, I'm sorry. And it's not as much about the apology as it is about understanding. So take a deep breath, go back to your partner and say, I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, because some people are so quick just to apologize. You know, you feel conflict and it's like, I'm sorry for whatever I did.
Right.
And women and men probably feel this too. You're like, really? That really sounds like what I wanted.
But you want it to end, so you say it.
Well, you know what happens is that the brain, this wonderful thing that we have, is very intelligent, but it shuts off. It literally shuts off with a big red switch, if you will, when the emotions start to rise. And when those emotions start to rise, we don't think clearly.
So it's not our fault. Our brain shuts off.
You know,
right?
our brain.
You could use that one in your relationship.
I don't know what you're talking about, personally.
You probably already used that one, right?
Maybe.
But think about what you do when you're with other people. We do have choice. We zip it, we bite our tongue, we look out the window. Do that when your partner's driving and you want to say, well, it would be quicker to make a left. Just be quiet.
But we also see a couple, like for example, and we'll talk about this later in the show, but you see the Gores. You see a couple who's been together 40 years.
Please, no one run the video of them kissing. I've seen that too much in the last day.
But right, I mean, you see a couple that's kind of withstood the test of time, and you think, they're gold. They've got it. If they've made it this long, they've made it as long as they need, and they'll be fine. But that's not always the case.
There's the video. I hate you guys.
I'm
glad I didn't see the initial kiss. Has that not been run like 20 million times?
Look at that. They're romantic. What's the matter with you?
I'm ill.
Yeah. Well, you know,
gosh, I'm sorry, Donna.
Yeah. There's always more. There's always more behind the scenes, and that's what I ask couples to ask each other. So tell me more about why that makes you sick. Tell me more about why you didn't call the plumber. You know, it sort of makes me feel like I wasn't heard. And it's important for me because I was doing this and this, and I just needed you to help me out. And then stop and listen, because you're going to hear more information. We just stay at the surface, and we fight about all the surface stuff.
Or you always hear everybody saying, well, I feel this way, and you're not listening to each other.
Exactly. And if you stop and say, okay, I'm really not getting you because I have a different brain. I'm female, you're male. I grew up in a different family. We place different value on words. I have lots of experiences that you don't have. I mean, think about the definition of words. There are not definitions of words. It's what we place on words, meanings that we have, that we make for words.
And just because you're opposites and you've attracted initially, and that's what had your fire burning, so to speak, it doesn't mean that that's going to be terrible down the road.
Right, no.
I don't think you need everything the same. It would just be boring.
Yeah, no, this is an opportunity for growth. Can you imagine what it would be like living with two of you? Or
Pretty
two
good.
of you?
Actually, a party.
Two Natashas?
Would be all. Would
Could
be
the
all
world
party.
handle it?
I don't think
I
so.
ask.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's one's going to be more quiet, one's going to be more talkative, and you've got all sorts of other traits that come into there. And if you understand where your partner's coming from, and more than that, where you understand their childhood story, because we all adapt from our families. We get their traits, and we adapt in a certain way.
When in doubt, blame your family.
Hey, why not?
Donna, thank you. Good to see you again.
You're welcome.